Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. We're going to begin this evening on page 27 with the meditation. Nityam Mahesham Rudrashtadhyayi Nivam Charu Chandravatam Sam Ratnaka Ojvalangam Parashum Rigam Abhiti Hasam Ratsanam Pavasinam Samantat Stutam Amaragamir Vyagra Kriting Dasanam Vishwadhyam Vishwabijam Nakalapoyaharam Panchapatram Trinetram. And we're going to establish Shiva's mantras in our fingers, in our hands, called a kara. Om Nam Angustabhyam Nama Om Maharjinibhyam Swaha Om Sing Madhavabhyam Boshat Om Mam Anamikabhyam Hum Om Yam Kanishtikabhyam Boshat Om Namah Shivaya Karotokar Prishtabhyam Nastraya Om Namah Shivaya. And in our body, Om Nam Hridayaya Namah, Om Asirase Swaha, Om Sing Shikaya Divosha, Om Am Kapachaya Kum, Om Yam Netratraya Boshat, Om Namah Shivaya, Karotokar Prishtabhyam Nastraya Om Namah Shivaya. And make recitation of Shiva's mantra 108 times. Om Namah Shivaya. And let's begin with chapter 1. Om Namah Parvati Pade Hari Om. Om Gananam Pa Ganapatim Gumavamake Priyadam Pa Priyapatingu Mavamake Nidhinam Pa Nidhipatingu Mavamake Basamama Ahamachani Gavatmat Vamachasi Gavadam Gayatri Trishtra Jagatyanishra Pabhyatsaha Priham Nandishti Hakakupsuchi Viki Samyamtitva Dvipadagasta Duspadas Tripadagasta Sapadaha Vichandagasta Satandaha Suti Viki Samyamtitva Sakastoma Sakachanda Saabrita Sakapramarishaga Saptadeha Purisham Panta Manuvishya Dira Anbalevi Re Pragyaratano Yarasmin Yatagrako Duravate Devam Pradusatasata Devate Duravamam Jyotisham Jyotirekam Padmimanaha Siva Sakalpamastu Ina Dharmam Yapasama Panishino Yakin Pibam Tividate Shaviraha Yadapuram Yachamantaha Prajanam Padmimanaha Siva Sakalpamastu Yapragana Mutachito Dritischa Yajotiraktaram Ritam Prajasu Yasmanarite Kinchanakama Priyate Tamimanaha Siva Sakalpamastu Yanedam Bhutam Bhutanam Bhavishyat Parigrahitam Amritena Sarvam Yena Yagyastayate Satahoda Tamimanaha Siva Sakalpamastu Yasmin Richa Samayam Yajunchi Yasmin Pratishtita Ratana Vibara Yasmin Chitam Kamotam Prajanam Padmimanaha Siva Sakalpamastu Shusharati Raswani Vanyamanushyan Niniyate Vishu Vibhatina Iva Ripratishtam Jadi Tiram Jabishtan Padme Manaha Siva Sankalpamastu Iti Pratamo Adhyayam. Let's go back and read our translation and discuss these mantras. The meditation Om We always meditate on he who shines like the white mountains, ornamented by a digit of the moon on his head. His body shines like jewels. In his left hands, he displays an axe and the mrig mudra, which is also known as the Kalpataru mudra, with the thumb, the middle, and the ring fingers extended up, with the thumb, middle, and ring fingers joined with the pointer and pinky extended up. So here we've got the thumb, middle, and ring fingers joined, and the pointer and the pinky extended up. And in his two right hands, he shows the mudras granting blessings and fearlessness. He is of beautiful appearance, seated in the full lotus asana. On his four sides, the gods are present, singing hymns of praise. His wearing apparel is a tiger skin. He is before the universe and the cause of the universe. He removes all fear, has 5 faces and 3 eyes. And that's 3 eyes on each face. So he's actually got 15 eyes. All the better to see you. And now we're going to establish the letters of his mantra in our fingers. Om Nam in the thumb, I bow. Om Ma in the forefinger, I am one with God. Om Sing in the middle finger, purify. Om Vong in the ring finger, cut the ego. Om Ya in the little finger, ultimate purity. And roll your hands forwards while reciting Karotalkar, and backwards while chanting Krishnabhyam, and then clap the hands when chanting Astraya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om, I bow to the consciousness of infinite goodness with the weapon of virtue. Om, I bow to the consciousness of infinite goodness. And now we'll establish his mantra in our body. Om in the tattva with the tattva mudra, touch your heart. Om, I nam in the heart I bow. Om ma on the top of the head, I am one with God. And now extend the thumb and like you're hitchhiking, ride up to heaven. Om shing on the back of the head, purify. And again the tattva mudra. Om bom, crossing both arms, cut the ego, holding the tattva mudra, and in the 3 eyes. Om ya in the 3 eyes, ultimate purity. Roll hands over hand forwards and backwards. I bow to the consciousness of infinite goodness with the weapon of virtue. Om, I bow to the consciousness of infinite goodness. Now please, that's a very, very broad statement. Picture the best goodness that you can possibly imagine. And make it better. And it's really good. I mean, this is as good as it gets. Now make it better still. And when you get to where you can't make it any better, that's the beginning of the understanding of the consciousness of infinite goodness. That's Shiva. He's Kalyan, he's welfare, he's Mangal, he gives the most beneficent, the most auspicious to everyone. And so he is the consciousness of infinite goodness, ad infinitum. Chapter 1, Om, I bow to the husband of Parvati, that's Shiva. Om, praise to Om. We invoke you with offerings, O Lord of the multitudes. We invoke you with offerings, O Lord of love. We invoke you with offerings, O guardian of the treasure. Sit within me, giving birth to the realm of the gods within me. Yes, giving birth to the realm of the gods within me. And we have that verse in all of our prayogs, in all of the preface to each puja. We ask Ganesh to please come. We're invoking you, and we're inviting you, and you sit within me and give birth to the realm of the gods within me. And yes, you give birth to the realm of the gods within me. That's the first thing that we're asking you for. We are reciting with the Sanskrit meters Gayatri, Trishtup, Jagati, Onashtup, Pankti, Brihati, Ushnik, and Kaku, which have been demonstrated to bring you peace. Now, each one of these meters is a mathematical formula. And each one of these mathematical formulas regulates our breath according to the number of syllables in the mantra. So these meters have special meanings in the practices as we recite the text. We perform the pranayam, and as we perform the pranayam, we are breathing according to the number of syllables of each of the various meters. We are reciting with 2 syllables and with 4 syllables, with 3 syllables and with 6 syllables, without meter and with meter, as has been indicated to bring you peace. Shiva, we know, the rishis have told us that there are various meters and numbers of syllables, and your mantra has 5 syllables, Nama Shivaya, and if you add Om, it says it has 6 syllables, and if we have 2-syllable mantras, 4-syllable mantras, 3-syllable mantras, 6-syllable mantras, mantras without meter, they are blank verse. We call it pak. Just blank verse, no meter at all. And with meter, we just recited the various 8 meters that bring you peace. In ancient times, the 7 rishis understood the path by which to return to divinity by consistently perceiving that the natural order of the mind is united with hymns and meters. The intrinsic nature of the mind, the natural order of the mind, is in union with hymns and meters of praise. That's your intrinsic nature. All of the mental conditioning that we've undergone over the last several years since we came out of Mother's womb, and they slapped us on the bottom first thing and said, forget all that Sanskrit stuff, learn to be a somebody in the world. So now the rishis, those first 7 rishis, understood this path. How do you become divine? You align your mind with meters and hymns of Sanskrit. May our waking consciousness replace pain and suffering with divinity, as also our awareness when asleep. May our radiant aura of light extend far, filling our minds with light. May my mind be filled with that firm determination of Shiva, the consciousness of infinite goodness. I want to have a Sankalpa, just like Shiva's Sankalpa. And remember, kalpa means an idea, and san means all. And all the ideas are wrapped up into one definition, one firm determination, one focus, one measure of attentiveness. And we're going to use the meters of Sanskrit to measure that attentiveness, that span. The excellent actions of thinking beings, that must be us, steadfastly offering their knowledge in sacrificial union, is the ancient means of enhancing the wealth of the people. Wow, hey, you want to be wealthy? I want to tell you a story. I'll tell it very quickly. Shiva and Parvati went to visit some devotees, and they went to the home of a very wealthy man. He was so rich, and he was counting his money, and he said, "Hi Shiva, hi Parvati, I'm busy counting the day's collection. You have a seat on my sofa. I'll be with you just as soon as I get through counting the money." And Shiva and Parvati sat down on the sofa and watched this man count the money, and Parvati got mad. She said, "Shiva, I am insulted. Doesn't that guy know that all his wealth has come from us? He's ignoring us completely and paying attention to the money. Shiva, give him a curse." Shiva said, "I curse you." Let's make it official. "I curse you. Your wealth will increase. Parvati looked on in disbelief and dismay, and they both got up, Shiva and Parvati, and they went down the street to the very, very, very poorest farmer in the neighborhood. And he lived in one little jhopri, in one little hut with his cow. And when he saw Shiva and Parvati walking up the path towards his house, he ran and bowed down to them and touched their feet and ran back to the cow, milked the cow, took the milk, poured it over their feet, and then he made some sweets, and then he made some dhi and some yogurt, and he made some ghee, and he fed them the very, very best that he possibly could. And Parvati said to Shiva, Shiva, I am so pleased with the devotion of this devotee. Please give him a blessing. And Shiva said, I bless you. Your cow will die. And Parvati was just astounded. She looked with disbelief, and then the two of them got up and they started on their way back to Kailash, and Parvati couldn't stand it any longer. She said, Shiva, I have to ask you even before we get home. I asked you to curse the rich man. You said your wealth will increase. I asked you to bless the poor man. You said his cow will die. What kind of justice is that? What kind of a God are you anyway? And Shiva said, the rich man was busy with his money. He was so busy with his money, he didn't even have time for us. So I cursed him. I gave him more money. So he has even less time. The poor man lost his cow. He lost his last attachment to this earth. And you see, he gets to come to Kailash along with us. So the ancient means, this knowledge of sacrificial union is the ancient means of enhancing the wealth of a people. This is the wealth of a people. May my mind be filled with that firm determination of Shiva, the consciousness of infinite goodness. Can I have a Sankalpa like Shiva has? So I can maintain my focus on the wealth, the real, the true wealth of the people. Now, I don't want to sit around and count money all day. Being firm in that supreme wisdom which fills consciousness, that inner light of the nectar of bliss within all beings born, may we perform all actions from that imperishable truth. Everything we do, we're centered in that inner light and the nectar of bliss. We're doing it because we want to. We're always acting because we want to. We're always given a choice. If you don't want to, you quit. And if you don't quit, you want to. And that's the choice. And now, can I maintain that center? And can I maintain that nectar of bliss within all beings born? That's the intrinsic nature of all beings born. May we perform all actions from that imperishable truth. May my mind be filled with that firm determination of Shiva, the consciousness of infinite goodness. By means of this supreme wisdom, all beings in the manifested worlds of the future will be able to completely dwell with the nectar of immortal bliss by means of the sacrificial fire attended by 7 offerings on 7 levels of consciousness. We're giving this wisdom and we're promoting this wisdom and we're sharing this wisdom, this supreme wisdom, so that all beings who manifest in the future, that they did it for us and we're doing it for the next generations, will be able to completely dwell with the nectar of immortal bliss. The bliss that comes from attending the sacrificial fire with 7 levels of offering on 7 levels of consciousness. Bhur, Bhuva, Swa, Maha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satya. Those 7 levels of consciousness, I'm giving offerings in the gross body, I'm giving offerings in the subtle body. Fill my senses with the offering of light. Fill my mind with the offering of light. Fill my intuition with the offering of light. Fill the entire universe with the offering of light. Fill all that is knowable with the offering of light. Fill all light with the offering of light. Fill all truth, consciousness, and bliss with the offering of light. May my mind be filled with that firm determination of Shiva, the consciousness of infinite goodness. This knowledge, this wisdom, this truth, this is where the Rig, Shama, and Yajurvedas have been established. The conveyance of the great attitude. You got the great attitude, you got the Bhav. The great attitude. This is the great attitude. Can you think of any more lofty, more altruistic thoughts that you can put in your mind than this truth? The conveyance of that great attitude from where all the highest contemplations of life emanate. It is true. May my mind be filled with that firm determination of Shiva, the consciousness of infinite goodness. He is the excellent charioteer of the horses of mankind, awakening them from sloth and laziness to this renewed energy established in delight for both the old and the young. May my mind be filled with that firm determination of Shiva, the consciousness of infinite goodness. And thus ends the first chapter. Let's see if there are any questions, please.
Swamiji, a question from Usha from Canada.
Namaste, Ushama.
When we align the mind with the rhythm of Sanskrit meters, which describes what seems to happen so well, even if done without real expertise, is this also related to music? And how do the rishis determine the different meters, somehow translating the original vibration of matter to sound?
Usha, the rishis cognized. They didn't determine, because a determination is a contemplation, and it's a consideration. They deduced. And they didn't deduce it, they cognized it. They just plugged into the Akashic records and they just listened and they heard it. It was Shruti to them. So they just got filled with the Bhav and they got this sudden inspiration, and then they realized Gayatri, Ushtuk, Anushtuk, Trishtuk, Jagati, Brihati, Pankti. These are the 7 rhythms of Sanskrit with Kakup as the 8th, which means various. Now, these 7 meters have 24 syllables to the verse, Gayatri, 28 syllables to the verse, 32 syllables to the verse, 36 syllables to the verse, 40 to the verse, and 44. Now, and then there are many different variations. So you have Ekapada Trishtuk, and you have Dupada Trishtuk, and there are various varieties of rhythms that you can improvise. So just like the notes of the scale, the Samaveda, it was the notes came out of the heavens and filled the rishis with inspiration, and they got up and danced. They couldn't help but sing it. So that's how they were cognized.
Can you please explain the meaning and presence of Om Namah Shivaya and Om Namah Parvati Pataye at different times during the puja? Is it matter of convenience of using one or the other? Dilip from Florida.
No, Dilip, they have 2 different meanings, and it's written into the text. Hari Om and Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, of course, Om, the infinite beyond conception, Nama, I bow or we bow, Shiva, to the consciousness of infinite goodness. Hori, Om means praise to Om. Hori is the word of praise. Hori means also, Ha means the gross body, Ra means the subtle body, E means the causal body. Om is all manifested in all existence. So praise to Om, and Om is manifested in all existence. Hori Om. Om Namah Parvati Pate, but the Pati of the Parvati is Shiva. So to Om we bow to the husband or the Lord of Parvati, which means Shiva.
Can Swamiji expand on the 7 rishis? In what level of reality do they dwell? Is there a function or activity which distinguishes each? Kumari from Ballyhoo.
Namaste, Kumari Ma. Yes, the 7 rishis are born in every kalpa, and they have 7 different names in every kalpa. So we have several different lists of the 7 rishis according to the various time periods. So we, of course, in our Sarvabhadra Mandala Devata Puja, we worship them as Gautam, Bharadwaj, Vishwamitra, Jamadagni, Atre, Vashishta, and I forgot one. And Kashyap. So these 7 that we got in the Sarvabhadra Mandala Devata. And so there are 7 other rishis in each list. So they differ from scripture to scripture and from puja to puja. There are many different lists of them, of their names. Now, what their functions are, they were the first seers of the totality of the Vedas. And they are the progenitors of creation. So the creation came forth from Kashyap Muni. He became the first of the Prajapatis. And he gave, of course, Daksha was a Prajapati, a Pati of the Praja, a lord of the created beings. Daksha gave birth to the girls, and Kashyap married them and gave birth to the creation, especially through his 3 wives, Diti, Aditi, and Kadru. Through Diti, he gave birth to all the Asuras, Danavas, Daityas, through Aditi, all the heavenly beings, and Kadru to all the snakes and serpents and dinosaurs and all the other beings that roam the earth. So each of the 7 rishis was a knower of all the Vedas, and they were the progenitors of the Gotras. So from these 7 rishis, the branches began to extend themselves out. And then that's why we each have a Gotra, so that we can trace our lineage back to which branch of the Vedas are we, did we get our initiation, our lineage of knowledge from. Yes, please.
Swamiji, in this text, the meters vary, and it almost seems like that haphazardly gets changed back and forth.
No, there is not a haphazard change. There is a very clear-cut change.
But when you're first learning it and it changes so often, how is that supposed to bring you peace? How does that all the meters?
But it focuses your attention, and it's going to create new patterns of pranayama for you. But it will definitely focus your attention and demand that you pay attention. Let's see if we can go ahead into chapter 2 this evening. Chapter 2 is known as the Purusha Shukta. Hari Om Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat Sabhuming Sarvatva Prishtvat Yatishtaha Dashangunam Purusha Vedam Sarvam Yabutam Yachabhavyam, Utamritvatasi Sadho, Yadanina Tiroati, Etavanasya Matimato, Jayangascha Purushaka, Patosya Vishwabhutani, Sripadasya Mritandhi, Sripadritvat Pudoit Purushaha, Patosyeha Papapuna, Tato Vishwambiyakramat, Sasana Nasanevihi, Tato Virada Jayata, Virajo Adipurushaka, Sajato Adarichayata, Jaschad Bhumi Patopura, Tasmad Yagatvarvataha, Samritam Prishadajam, Pastum Sanchakre Vayavyam, Naramyam Ramyaschake, Tasmad Yagatvarvataha, Richaha Samani Jagire, Chandan Si Jagire Tasmad, Yajus Tasmad Ajayata, Tasmad Ashwat Ajayanta, Eke Jo Bayadataha, Kavo Jagire Tasmad, Tasmad Jata Pajavika, Tam Yagambarki Shikosham, Purusham Jatamagradaha, Tina Deva Ayajanta, Sanyam Pristakashake, Yapurusham Yatatu, Katila Yakopayam, Mukati Masasitim, Paku Kimuru Bada Puchade, Ramnavasya Mukamasid, Baku Raja Neharita, Guru Tadashya Vaishaha, Pamyam Shudra Jayata, Chandra Manaso Jatas, Chaksho Suryo Jayata, Sutra Vayushta Pranashcha, Mukadandir Jayata, Navyam Asidantarikshayum, Sirshno Dyam Samavartaka, Pavyam Bhumeti Sahasrotra, Tata Loka Nakapayam, Yapurishena Hovisha, Deva Yagyamatanvata, Vasatosya Dajam, Rishma Nidaha Suratviti, Saptasya Sankaridaya Sri, Saptasmida Krita, Deva Yagyamatamana, Abhagnam Purisham Vasham, Yakina Yagyama Yatanta, Devasani Dhamani Pratmanasam, Deyanata Mimanaka, Satanta Yatra Purve, Sadya Santi Devaha, Abhyaha Samrita Priti Vikir, Asacha Vishwakamana Samavartatadre, Tashyatata Abhitatu Tameti, Tamantyasya Deva Tamachanamagre, Vedakamitam Purishamahantam, Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat, Tameva Viti Tatat Mritu, Nidhi Inyantya Pantya Vidyate Yanaya, Prajapati Saratikave, Antarajaya Bandhova Buddha Vijayate, Tashyau Yamunim Pragya Pripasyanti Diras, Tasmin Hastatu Bhuvanani Vishwa, Yodo Devevya Atmapati, Yodeva Nam Purohitaha, Purvo Yodoy Bebyo, Chato Namo Ruchaya Pramake, Rucha Pramanjanayanto, Deva Hagre Tadambam, Yasri Bhagamyo Vidyas, Tasyas Daya Deva Tandasenya, Srishtate Lakshmi Sya, Panyama Horatre, Parshvina Chatrani Rupa Mashkinam Yatam, Vishna Nishanam Mayasana, Saralokam Ayisana, Yati Twiti Yodhyaya. Chapter 2. Praise to Om. The fool, complete and perfect consciousness, has 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, 1,000 feet, and that really means you can't count them all. He's got a lot. He's everywhere. He pervades the earth and the space on every side, while he manifests in all aspects of the world of 10. And there's a place of 10 fingers breadth, the heart, or the world comprised of the earth, water, fire, air, ether, smell, taste, sight, touch, sound, the 5 Mahabhutas, and the 5 Tanmantras. The world encompassed by the 10 directions, Dashangulam. It could be the 10 appendages, or the 10 digits, or the 10 fingers. It could be all the 10s. Every composition of 10 that you can imagine. 10 directions. The full, complete, and perfect consciousness alone has given birth to all, and that has become, and that all that will become. From him comes all that is and all that dwells in immortal bliss. So there isn't anything that hasn't come forth from the full, complete, and perfect consciousness. The full, complete, and perfect consciousness demonstrates his greatness in the perceivable and the imperceptible. The entire universe is his one part, while three parts exist in the divinity of the nectar of immortal bliss. So as much of manifested existence as we can possibly perceive, as we can possibly conceive, that's only one part of him. That's 1/4. 3/4 of him are imperceptible. So you'll never be able to see all of it. As much as you can see, that only comprises 1/4. The rest is beyond perception. The full, complete, and perfect consciousness rises in the three parts above, while with the one part he creates the entire creation again and again and resides within. So there's nowhere where Shiva is not. He is full, complete, and perfect, infinite consciousness. His 1/4 is manifested existence where he resides, and his 3/4 is beyond that. He resides there too. We can't even imagine it. The full, complete, and perfect consciousness is the eternal master. He created the vast existence and thereafter the land. Then he created yajna, the sacrifice of attachment to duality through attentive offering. That was next. And then the animals of the forest and those who fly with the wind and those who live in villages, like us. So first came yajna. And then from yajna, hymns and songs and poetic meters became known. And the Veda of sacrifice came forth. And then came both horses and cows and all beings that take birth. So here he created the yajna, and then he gave all the beings of the earth, and then the men, and then from the yajna came the hymns, and then came the songs and the poetic meters, and then the Veda of sacrifice, Yaja Veda, this Veda came forth. And then came from the Vedas horses and cows and all the beings to help the humans make their existence a little more harmonious. And the gods, the pure beings, and the rishis know him, the one who knows all. The full, complete, and perfect consciousness by demonstrating respect in the yajna of sacrificial offerings. That's how they know him. All the gods and all the rishis. Hey rishis, you know him by demonstrating respect in the yajna, by offering sacrificial offerings, giving up our attachments for the welfare of others. The full, complete, and perfect consciousness is so diverse. How varied are his descriptions? Who is represented by the head? Who by the arms? Who by the feet? From his head came the knowers of wisdom. From his arms, kings and administrators. From his thighs came forth those of circulation and distribution. And from his feet, support and sustenance. Now these are 4 functions that are required by every organism. You need an intellectual system. You need an immune system, a defense mechanism. You require a circulatory system to distribute the nutrients throughout the system. And you need shudras to bring in the nutrients and take away the refuse. These 4 systems, in modern parlance, they became known as the caste system. But actually, they are the four intrinsic aspects of every society. Whether it be the society of a human organism, or the society of human beings living together. We need intellectuals, we need defenders, we need circulatory system, and we need someone to bring in the nutrients and take away the refuse. His mind gave birth to the moon, and his eyes gave birth to the sun. From his ears and his breath came the wind, and from his mouth came the Lord of fire. From his navel came forth the atmosphere, and from his head the heavens. And from his feet came the earth, and from his ears the directions, and thus existence became manifested. The gods performed sacrifice with that supreme being as the offering. Spring was the clarified butter oil, summer the fuel, and autumn the oblation. 7 were the limitations defined. All the sevens, 3 times 7, the ingredients used. Each of the 7 on all 3 levels, creation, preservation, and transformation, all evolving. When the gods offered that sacrifice, they bound their animalistic nature and offered it to the Supreme Being. God ceased to be ruled by the lower chakras. They bound their animalism. Today it's a lot easier to offer an animal sacrifice, because I can bind his animalistic nature much easier than I can my own. But initially, the gods bound their own animalistic nature, and that was their offering. By sacrifice, the gods gave birth to sacrifice. And the first principles of eternal Dharma, the ideals of perfection, were established. The first principles of the ideal of perfection is sacrifice. Give up your egotistical attachments. Illuminate yourself with light of wisdom. And that was the establishment of the first principles of the eternal Dharma. Those who live according to the glorious way ultimately reach the highest abode where the gods dwell in that ancient perfection. And ain't it the truth? If you live according to the glorious way, if you live in sacrifice, you reach the highest abode where the gods always dwell. In the beginning, the doer of all distinguished the earth from the waters. Then the Creator gave the knowledge to distinguish the mortal world of humans from the immortal world of the gods. He gave us that discrimination. Okay, you guys live in the mortal world, and you have mortal concerns. These are the gods. Choose with whom you wish to dwell. I know this full, complete, and perfect consciousness, whose greatness is the color of the sun without darkness. Only those who know this are free from death. There is no other path by which liberation is known. Become one with that full, complete, and perfect consciousness. Become one with Lord Shiva, and that is the path to liberation. The Lord of all beings born enters all souls within the womb, and the eternal assumes all forms within the creation. It's all divine. Those who know the Supreme continually look to the divine within, which is established in all existence. That Supreme Lord illuminates the shining gods and goes before the gods in their every endeavor. We continually bow with respect to that illuminated Supreme Divinity who took birth before the gods. Those whose lives are illuminated with the rise of the radiance of divine light joyously proclaim, The gods are bound to serve those who know the supreme divinity in this form. They are obligated to serve. They are required to serve. It is compulsory that the gods serve any knower of supreme divinity, who knows supreme divinity as the one indivisible being. He's indivisible. All these divisible, distinguished individual forms that we perceive are only a portion, the smallest portion of that one indivisible being. Om, the highest respect to you, goal of all existence, wife of the full and complete divinity, the night, the unknowable one, at whose sides are the stars, and who has the form of the relentless search for truth. O supreme divinity, O supreme divinity, my supreme divinity, all existence is my supreme divinity. And thus ends the second chapter. And here is a footnote, the Purusha, the supreme being, is the full, complete body of existence. Puru means full, complete, perfect. Isha means Lord or ruler, seer. Thus the seer of perfection, or the perfect Lord. He requires every function in order to sustain himself. A central nervous system or intellect, an administrative or defense system, and a circulatory and nourishment systems. This makes him full, complete, as an integrated whole. The verse does not mean that the children born of a Brahmin family are higher than others, or so it's interpreted. Rather, it shows that the Purusha performs every function, and any man wishing perfection must emulate his perfect nature. The seven levels of limitations are the gross body, the subtle body, subtle perception, intuitive perception, the cosmic body of nature, the body of universal knowledge, the body of light, the ultimate truth, consciousness, and bliss. And then there's also the seven levels of hell, and there's the seven levels of heaven, and all the sevens are seven limitations. Do we have any questions?
Swamiji, Devi from Georgia
Namaste, Devi Ma.
and Pratibha from Foster City have the same question. Can you give us some ideas of the best ways to stay centered when we have completed our pujas and meditation and must go out into the world to work and the like?
Devi and Pratibha, please serve him. Remember him in every action that you're performing. You are choosing to serve him with your talents and your skills. Please do so, and remember who it is that you're working for. You are self-employed with a capital S. You're not employed by any Tom, Dick, or Harry. You're employed by Shiva himself.
Ma and Swamiji, can you explain the purpose or reason for Shiva associated with ghosts and goblins? I know he is everywhere, so why is he associated with ghosts and goblins?
Because they are disembodied spirits. They are spirits that don't have any embodied form. So that means he's ethereal. He's everywhere. He permeates the atmosphere. He's imperceptible. You can't see him. You can only see the symbol of him. But even all that you see, which is a representative of him, is only 1/4 of him. The rest is 3/4 is beyond even the strongest imagination.
Question from Pratibha. Is the entire Rudrashtadhyayi a puja by itself, or do we chant it as a part of the Shiva puja?
Oh, no, the Rudrastadhyayi is not really a puja. Actually, it is a yajna. It's performed at the sacred fire. It's performed with the fire. It's performed without the fire. It's a pak. It's a Vedic recitation. So we would perform the Shiva puja before, and then we would perform the Rudrastadhyayi, and then we would perform the Shiva puja again.
Question from Sadhuma. To emulate his perfection, would we need to know and manifest both our Varna Dharma and Ashrama Dharma? In the modern times, would we look to both our family, trade, and our inclinations and talents to understanding our Varna Dharma?
Sadhuma, that's true, and yet there are many, many exceptions to the rule. And I'll tell you why it's true first. And the reason it's true is because when you grow up in an environment, you learn a language from your childhood. And is someone who grows up learning with a carpenter would learn about tools and would learn about different woods and would learn about construction methods and various difficulties. So it's natural that you would have a good understanding of your Varna Dharma. That is your family's occupation. However, there's a Bhakti Dharma, which you yourself are manifesting right now. You are sadhuma. And you've chosen not to follow exactly in the footsteps of your family trade, and now you're becoming a sadhu. And here you are studying the Vedas. Well, in ancient times, it was not traditional for women to study the Vedas. It was traditional. It wasn't traditional for people outside of India to study the Vedas. It wasn't traditional for people who are Caucasian in race to study the Vedas. So here you are breaking all the taboos.
Swamiji, a question from Prasanna from Foster City.
Namaste, Prasanna.
When Purusha means full and complete body of existence or supreme being, why is it normally referred to as male aspect of divinity? Should it be male and female? In fact, that which is beyond gender? Are Purusha and Prakriti the same?
No, they are not the same. They have a distinction. Purusha is the masculine in Sankhya philosophy. Here, in Vedic philosophy, it stands for the highest supreme divinity. Purusha is the male aspect in Sankhya philosophy which perceives the consciousness, which perceives Prakriti, which is the nature. So, in Sankhya philosophy, which is the most common usage of the term Purusha, we have Purusha is the male consciousness perceiving the female Prakriti. Here, as it's used, we're using as Puru Isha, the full, complete, perfect, perceiving Lord, ruler of all. So it stands for the Supreme Lord. It stands for Shiva. And this entire Rudrastadhyayi, the Ashtadhyayi about Rudra, the 8 chapters pertaining to Rudra coming from the Yajurveda is a praise of Shiva. Rudra is the Vedic name of Shiva. So here the Purusha is Shiva. And we're not talking about the Purusha in duality, the perceiver and the perceived.
Question from Parvati in Sacramento.
Namaste, Parvati Ma.
What is the difference between puja and yajna? Are pujas not done at the fire?
Yes, they are, but puja is generally yajna is a subset of puja. Puja is any worship that is performed either to a deity or to the fire, and yajna is only performed at the fire. And then there are various kinds of yajnas. There is a yajna and a homa and a havan, and these are subsets of yajna, so they get smaller and smaller. So you can do a havan or agnihotra for 15 minutes. You can do a havan or a homa for 2 hours, or you can do a yajna for 3 years.
Question from Pratibha. What does it mean to watch oneself? How can we be aware of watching ourselves?
Well, the first thing you can do is watch the manifestations of yourself as you act and interact with society, Pratibha. In other words, catch yourself and put a moment of discrimination between stimulus and response. That would be a very good first step to watching yourself. How am I responding? How am I going to respond to this stimulus? Do I have to respond immediately, or am I allowed to think about what I want to say before the words come out? Can you imagine how much trouble that would save us? So let's start by watching ourselves.
Great.
Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Do we have any other questions?
We have a couple of questions, Swamiji. One from Kumari. Can the essence of this text, Rudri, be gained by chanting the Purusha Shukta, chapter 2?
No. No, Kumari, no shortcuts. There are 8 chapters and they're all powerful and they're really good. I mean, the Purusha Shukta is very important, but it's just a small part. We're going to get deeper and deeper and wallow in it until we really get into it, Kumari.
Question from Pratibha again, Foster City. I've heard from family members that usually men chant the Purusha Shuktam and Rudram. Also, I've heard that for such Vedic mantras, the sounds have to be in a certain rhythm, forceful and precise. Is that true?
No. It is not. There are so many. It's the famous proclamation of Sri Ramakrishna Pratibha. And he said, as many as there are individuals proceeding, so many are there paths by which we proceed. Each one of us has our own religion. Each one of us has our own dharma. There is, you know yourself, Sanskrit is chanted differently in the north, south, east, and west of India. Every 10 kilometers there's a different dialect, and they've changed the pronunciation. There is no correct, the only correct pronunciation of Sanskrit in the entire world is in the Devi Mandir. So Pratibha, it doesn't matter really how you are saying it, it matters who's listening. Is Shiva listening? If Shiva is listening, then you're pronouncing it correctly. And if you're pronouncing it and you don't understand a word that you're saying and your mind is a million miles away, then I think you've got to practice your pronunciation a little bit. But it doesn't, and it's not only about gender. And it's not, I mean, there were rishis so many female rishis in the Vedas. I mean, even more, the females became goddesses. But we recite the hymn of Ambrini Bhak every day. The Rig Vedoktam Devi Shukta, written by a woman. What do you mean that women can't chant the Vedas? They wrote them. It's foolish. And it has to be chanted by men, and it has to be chanted by brown men, or yellow men, or pink men. No! It has to be chanted by devotees who are chanting for devotion, with real love for Shiva. And then we strive to understand more and more and more about what we're saying, so that we can come into the bhav more and more. This stuff is great! This stuff, I'm not saying that because I know the author. I'm saying this stuff is just pure 100% inspiration. There is just pure 100% inspiration in every verse.
Dilip from Florida has a question, Swamiji.
Yes, Dilip.
Purusha Shukta sounds the same as the one for Vishnu. Are they the same?
There are several verses that are different. There's a Purusha Shukta in Rig Veda, there's a Purusha Shukta in Yajurveda. This is the Purusha Shukta of Yajurveda, and it has some extra verses that are not found in the Rig Vedic one. And otherwise, there are many, many similarities, and many verses are exactly the same, and some verses have a few words that are different. Namaste, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us. I feel very enriched by this study.
Thank you, everybody.
Pranam.
I love